Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to Match Day. I'm Vince, and we have two special guests with us today. Normally, we have Ian Barker, my co-host, on, but he is on vacation, a well-deserved vacation. So I've asked Dr. Fritz Ettl to join. So, Fritz, can you just say hello? Make sure we got your audio. Fritz, can you hear me? Can't hear me. And then Coach Avery, say hello. Yep, and we got Mike Avery, who is the Fort Wayne FC head coach currently, but former college coach, lots of years in the college game. Thank you so much for coming on and taking your time and sharing your journey. So let's start there. But thank you very much for having us, for coming on.
Sure. Thank you.
So let's go ahead and we'll just start with your journey, and let me know when you want me to put up the slide deck. So everybody on the other end, we're going to talk about basically kind of a culture, right? And building a culture in the locker room and on your team. So I'm really interested in hearing this presentation, and then I'm going to try and get Fritz back in the room. So go ahead, Coach, if you don't mind, share your journey, and then we'll progress from there.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thanks again for the invite, and it's great to see Fritz, who is actually a former club player of mine when he was a young guy, and to see you, who I've known for so many years. So my journey is I grew up playing in California, went to college in California at Westmont College.
Yep.
Had a chance to play professionally a little bit, and then got into coaching quite young. So now you flash forward, and I'm 52 years old, and I've been on a soccer team every day of my life since I was 4. So it's a long time as a player and as a coach, and the last 29 years coaching in college. I started as a small college coach and kind of worked my way up, and ended up for about 6 years on the staff at Notre Dame with the legendary Bobby Clark. Had a chance to move from there to Louisville to work for the legendary Ken Lola. So two really great mentors that I was fortunate to work with. And then took all those experiences, and then the last 13 years coached at Valparaiso University as the head coach. And so really incredible opportunity at Valpo. My wife's the volleyball coach there, so a really unique setup for our family that we could both coach and live in the same area code, which didn't always happen during our marriage. And so it was really fun. And then unfortunately in November of last year, as you see happen across the country now, Valpo decided to make some budget cuts. 2 men's sports got chosen. Men's tennis was one of them, and men's soccer was the other.
Wow.
And so it was a surprise. It wasn't really something that I knew was coming, and so it kind of set us into a different mode. And then I was very fortunate to get picked up by Fort Wayne FC and going to help them launch a new organization, brand new club that has professional aspirations. We'll start in the NPSL. We were supposed to be playing just now, finishing up our first season. But COVID won the first season, unfortunately. Yeah. So we pushed everything on to next year. We really great ownership, really ambitious, but also very smart in how they're going about their business. And I think they're going to put a great product on the field. So I'm excited to be a part of that.
Oh, no, it's well, they're lucky to have you, number one. Number two, we met a long time ago when I was trying to actually be a college coach at Bethel, but you took over the reins at my alma mater, and you had just wonderful success there at Bethel. And then you continued with Coach legendary Bobby Clark, who to me he's the epitome of a coach.
Yeah, right? The best thing about Bobby too is as good of a coach as he is, and I agree, the best teacher of the game I've ever spent time around. He's a better guy, and you don't always see that. And so again, it was not only working with Bobby, which was, I always say it's like getting your PhD in coaching. Every day you're able to get just more and more from him. But also, Brian Weiss was on staff there, and Brian just won a national championship at Georgetown. So we were assistants together, and I learned an awful lot from him as well. And then again, to take those experiences and then go work for Ken, who was very different than Bobby, but also very successful and also an incredible person. So it was really, I was very fortunate in that part of my career for sure.
Yeah, no, it's great. Good. Now, hey, Fritz, do we have you?
I think so. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Well, I tell you what, Coach, Avery, let's go ahead and start this presentation, and please take us through this. And so everybody down the other end, if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat box. I will try and get those asked. But I'm really excited about this presentation. It is so appropriate for today, right? And a lot that's happening in our world. So,
great. Well, again, I'm excited to do so. And what I'm going to do is take you guys through maybe a condensed version of a little bit longer presentation that I give. And I'll tell you the story of what we call #OneValpo as I go through this. And I want to make sure that before I start, just to really preface it by saying that this was a story that occurred in 2014. So it was a while ago.
Yeah.
And it's about a program that's not even in existence anymore. And so I bring that up to tell you that this is not my response to what's going on in the world today. I want to make sure that I make that distinction very clear, because I am going to talk about some things that have elements of race in it. And I'm also going to talk about things that have some racial bias in it and some abuse in it. And then our collective response as the team on how we handled it internally and then grew it from our platform. But this is not me trying to say that this is an all lives matter response to what's going on in the world today. That's not what I'm saying at all. So I just want to make sure that I'm clear. I have had, though, in the last 2 months, the opportunity to share this story probably 40 times. I think I've given this exact presentation, and again, slightly longer version of it, to about 40 different schools, universities, football teams, basketball teams, volleyball teams, cross-country teams, all over the country, international schools. And what we're doing is using it as kind of a soft entry into difficult conversations about what's going on in the world today.
Yeah.
So it's a great indirect way, because there are some things that are relevant. There are some lessons that we can learn from it. And so that's ultimately what we're going to do, is talk about that. So I'm going to take you through this, and I want to give you just a little bit of context. So when I took over in Valpo, I was named head coach there in 2007. And when I came there, I was coming off of 6 years at Notre Dame and a year at Louisville, two of the best programs in the country.
Yeah.
And what I learned very quickly at Valpo's in a great location. It's got a lot of potential. 45 minutes from Chicago, a couple hours from Indianapolis, great soccer in the Midwest. But the reality was that when I would reach out to the contacts and the clubs and the coaches and the players that I was in the circle with before, we just weren't getting the kind of response that we needed. We weren't able to attract the kind of player that we needed because we just weren't quite good enough yet. We were building still. Right. And so I made a conscious decision to go outside of the normal route in recruiting. And I tell you that because it wasn't my intention to build one of the most diverse teams in the country. That wasn't what I set out to do.
Right.
It happened, but it happened almost just as a byproduct of me trying to build a good team. You know, I grew up in California, so I brought kids from California, Hispanic players and other nationalities to Valpo. You know, I lived and worked in Texas, and so I would bring kids from the South and from Texas, for kids from the East Coast. And again, to a small white private institution in a small town that is probably 90% white, our team was pretty unique, and we didn't really recognize it. But all of a sudden, one day you look probably 3 years into the project, and I would stand in front of the team in the locker room at the beginning of the season, and there'd be 30 guys looking back at me, and there would be 17 different birth countries in the room.
Wow.
Probably 90% of the guys in the roster would check a box other than white when they filled out their application to come. We would have 5 or 6 languages spoke native to them. Every religion that you could imagine, every background that you could imagine. We would have every family circumstance, socioeconomic status. We would have guys that would come from the suburbs with 2 parents and a stable home. We would have guys that would come from no parents, from a foster home. Guys from 1 parent in a village somewhere overseas. And so all of this difference would stare back at you, and you would kind of say to yourself, I love that first day. It was exciting. You say, how are we going to bring this team together? And you know, what the world will tell us is that that doesn't work. That kind of diversity doesn't work. And what I'm telling you and what I'm telling everybody today is not only does it work, but it was our greatest strength. Not only does it work, but it was our secret weapon. It was our superpower. Once we learned how to celebrate our diversity, not just manage it, but celebrate it, that's when our team really became something else. So the guys that you see here on the screen, I'm going to start with on the far right, the full screen. His name is Yannick. Now, Yannick was born in Nigeria. He grew up in France. when he was about 13 or 14 years old, he moved to Houston, Texas, because his sister had a heart issue and she needed some special medical attention.
Right.
So Yannick and his mother and his sister went to Houston. So he went to high school in Houston, played club soccer in Houston, went to West Virginia University as a freshman, didn't quite work out, went to a junior college in Kansas, and then came to Valparaiso for his last 2 years. Really interesting life path to end up in Valpo. And you're going to see that's a trend, is that this small little town in the Midwest, all these guys took these crazy journeys to end up there. Okay. Next to Yannick on the bottom, holding the other guy's leg up, that's Diego Calix. Diego was born in El Salvador. He grew up in El Salvador. There was a civil unrest in El Salvador, so he and his brother went to Los Angeles, California, lived with some relatives, and he went to high school in LA. And that's where I found him as a recruit when he was in Los Angeles. Again, different life path to get to Valparaiso, Indiana. The player that's up at the top in the middle, that's Daniel Killen. Daniel was born in Liberia, came over to the U.S. right outside of Minnesota. That picture is actually, he's the one in the middle with the number 10. That was 2 weeks ago, or 2 months ago, rather, in Minnesota at the Black Lives Matter movement. He lives there now. But when he came to us, again, he came from Liberia, settled in the U.S., was supposed to come to Valpo, didn't have the grades. We sent him to an NAI school for a while, and then he transferred in. Again, interesting life path to get to us. Now, these three guys are on the screen because they're kind of the central characters in the story that I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
So 2014, we opened the season, and we were playing a game down in Florida. The opponent's not important. On the day, we started 9 players out of 11 that were black. So in college soccer, that's kind of a unique look. It wasn't, again, our intention. And honestly, we didn't even realize it. There was no thought to it. It kind of happened organically for us, and it's just who we were.
Right, right.
But we started that way on the game. And so we're playing in the game, and Yannick, the 6th there, we're defending a corner kick. Yannick's man-marking somebody in and around the near post, and another attacker floats into the area. So he's now got 2 men, and he needs help. So he yells out to Diego Calix. Diego's 10 yards off the ball of the guy that's going to take the corner kick. And Yannick yells to him, Diego, come here, I need some help. And doesn't get a response from Diego. Doesn't hear him. Diego's focused, the crowd, whatever it is. So he yells again, Diego, come here, I need some help. Again, no response. So finally, Yannick yells one more time, and this time he yells to Diego, and he yells in Spanish, Diego, ven aquí. And all of a sudden, Diego's ears perk up and turns around and sees that Yannick needs help, and he runs back in to help his teammate out. So while this is happening, the player that Yannick is marking is watching this. And this guy, Yannick is one of the nicest people on the planet. Very, very kind person, big, strong, great athlete, but very kind-hearted man. And the guy says to him, you speak Spanish? And Yannick says to the guy back to him, his opponent says, yeah, I speak Spanish. I speak like 5 languages. And the guy says, that's pretty good for a monkey.
Oh.
So that's where it starts.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, that racial slur comes out. And this player on the other team then goes around the field because he's getting a response and a reaction, and he's getting under the skin of our players, and he calls every player of color in our team the same racial slur, and that's 9 out of 11. Now, you guys know when you're coaching and you're standing on the sideline, you can hear what's going on, or you can see what's going on, but you can't hear everything that's going on. And so I know that people are upset, but I don't really know why they're upset. Halftime comes. So they come off the field, and everybody's agitated, and they tell me what's happened and what's being said. And I'm going to tell you guys, it wasn't my proudest moment in coaching because I flipped out. Right.
Yeah.
And so just to give you a little bit more context. So this person that you see here is my son.
Yeah.
So 1 year prior to that game, we adopted my son KJ from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So he was actually on the trip with us at that game. And so not only am I the coach of this team of these diverse kids from all over the world with all these great backgrounds, I'm a father in my own house of a multiracial family too. This was a really raw, really emotional thing that we weren't prepared for. So we go back to the story. So I want to take the team off. I'm yelling at the referees, the other team's coaches. I'm trying to get somebody to respond to me. And finally, they just kind of calm you down. And they say, Coach, no, we're sorry. We got it. We're sorry. It shouldn't have happened. We'll take care of it. We've traveled all this way to play, and kids want to play, and the players want to play, and so we agree to go back out on the field. So into the second half now, and we're 5 minutes in, and then all of a sudden what happens, of course, here comes the word again. And so this time the kid says it, and he says it to DK at the top there. And Daniel, one of my favorite guys around, he decided in that moment to solve it on his own, and he did so because he knocked the kid out through a punch. So after so much time, you kind of say, yeah, it's about time. Somebody should have solved it. You understand where that comes from. But again, now the irony in that situation is that we become the bad guys in that situation. We're the one with the red card. We're the one with the 2-game suspension of fighting. We're the one I've got to call my AD back home and explain to him why we're fighting. All of these things, all of the stereotypes about our team that we actually fought very hard to combat. They're very athletic, but they're a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
Code for black. Yeah. Like these things that were happening, we were playing into that stereotype all of a sudden. Right. So again, this whole thing really started as just as a coaching opportunity for my team. So the next day when we're kind of calmed down and we're in the hotel and we're talking about it, we just said, listen, we do look different than other people. You know, we do have something different about us. How are we going to handle it when this happens? And it was just a great conversation. It was a great learning opportunity for our team. And we just kind of left it there. So then you flash forward, we're a couple months later, and we're playing up in a different game, up in Michigan, again, a different opponent. The opponent's not important.
Right.
And we're playing, again, now I'd been coaching about 25 years in college at this point. It never had happened once. Now in one season, 2 times. This one, I actually kind of prompted in some ways. So the player that you see in the full screen is Julio. Julio was born in Guatemala. Okay. Grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Really good player. Played a little bit with the U.S. Under-17 national team. Went to the University of New Mexico as a freshman.
Oh, okay.
Didn't quite work out. Ended up at a junior college. Came to us. Again, really intriguing life path to get to us. Okay. So we're playing a game, and Julio's running right next to me. He's an outside midfield player, and he's coming along the sideline where I'm standing. The other coach is standing, the 4th official, both teams' benches. And he's not moving fast enough for me in this moment because he's got to get back to defend. So I'm encouraging him, is what we call it in coaching, right? So I said, Julio, come on, man, you got to get back. And the player that's running alongside to him says, with an earshot of everybody, see, I told you, man, you're just a lazy Mexican.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So again, this thing happens.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we had learned some things for the first situation, and we didn't fight in this time, but it was hurtful. I mean, we're talking about a grown man, a tough kid. He was a senior in college. He was probably 22 years old, really rich life experiences. He's not even Mexican. He's from Guatemala, right? But his best friend was Jacob Gandaria, who was from Mexico, who was there in the middle at the bottom of the screen. Okay. And so he's feeling all of this hurt for not only himself, but for his teammates that he loves. And so the next day, you see the guys up in the locker room sitting around, and we're just sitting around, and we're talking about this again. And we're saying, look, obviously something's knocking on the door for us. And this is when it gets interesting for me, is because they started to share some things with me that I just didn't know. It's not just when we play games. It's not just when we're on the road. It's not so easy for us all the time here at school too. And it blew me away because I said, what do you mean? Like, I come in every morning to training and there's music blaring and guys are dancing and laughing, and our team clearly loves each other. What are you talking about? And they just start sharing ways that they were made to feel slightly different. They would go through line in the dining hall, and the lady would let the sorority girls in front of them go, and then they would stop the black guys and say, are you sure you have enough money for all that food today? I would have professors call me on the phone and say, so-and-so was disruptive in my class. And I'd say, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm looking through the roster and the list, and I said, excuse me, he's not in that class. And they would say, oh, it must be the other black guy in class.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Right? Things like that. In our campus, when something would go wrong in town, not just on campus, there would be an emergency message would come across the bottom of the screen, and it would say something like, the 7-Eleven 2 miles east of campus was held at gunpoint. Suspect is a young black male in a hoodie sweatshirt. And my players would tell me when they saw that message, they would just go to their dorm room, lock the door, and just not come out for the rest of the day. Just easier for them.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, if it said suspect is a middle-aged, slightly overweight white guy with a soccer sweatshirt on named Mike, I'm just still going about my day because I know I didn't do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's easier for them in that way. So hearing all of this, again, just me trying to coach my team, it's like, well, how do we turn this energy into something positive?
Yeah.
We're not going to fix this, but how do we at least channel our energy into something positive? So we came up with what we called this #OneValpo. And it really just started out as an Instagram campaign. All the pictures were taken from my phone. We would always have the guys together, all the beautiful diversity, all the differences. They would be in iconic places around campus, around town. They would be celebrating with each other, and would always somewhere say Valpo across their shirts. And it was just this message. It was like, listen, we have come a long way to be your hometown team, but we're really proud to be here. We're one Valpo. And we were using players as the heroes of the story that typically weren't thought of as the heroes. And in their lives and in their experiences, they weren't usually the guy that was on the cover of something. And we would put them right up front and center and just show how proud we were of them and how much we loved them and how much we were into it. And so this amazing thing started to happen, as happens in social media, is that likes and shares and follows, it just started to resonate with people. It wasn't this official rollout. It wasn't very well thought out. It was very grassroots, but it just really caught on. And so within a year, we have 10,000, 15,000 followers just following along this pictorial kind of representation of the team. And then we just kept sharing. And so as we continued to do that, we started also in recruiting to attract even better players of color. It became this thing that just kind of built on itself. And as our focus left our team and became on something bigger than our team, that's when our team got really good. So all of a sudden, we're in this run in this 3 years where we're every milestone that the program's going through, we're getting ranked in the top 25 and we're winning these games and we're just growing and growing and growing. It was all directly correlated to the timing of us turning our attention to something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
It was just what we became about. So I'm sitting in my office one day and I'm thinking, okay, I have all of these followers now. How do we engage them a step further? And so we came up with what we called the One Valpo Promise. And it's really just a grown-up golden rule. It's just this idea of, I promise to show respect to all others, regardless of race, culture, religion, socioeconomic status, all of the different things that we might have bias towards. We put it all in there. Now, again, I told you, this is not my response to the world today. It's a different issue in a different time.
Right.
We decided as a team that we wanted it to be about more than soccer. And we decided as a team that we wanted it to be about more than color. We wanted it to be inclusive of all these different areas. That was our choice at the time. And so we created this document, and then we just started to have people sign it, and they would share it through their own social media platforms. And so pretty soon, again, as the power of social media happens, we got hundreds and hundreds and pretty soon thousands and thousands of people that have signed on to the document. In the next season, we played every game, 20 games on our schedule. We offered it out to the team that we were going to compete against before the game. And so they would sign it, and we would take a photo together before the game. And then also, every athletic team on our campus would sign it and share it from their own platforms. Every student group, every fraternity, every sorority. I gave this talk probably 300 times over a couple-year period because I would talk to anybody that would listen. We would go to schools. We would go catch on with, local businesses and Rotary clubs, and we just kept sharing this positive message over and over and over again. We weren't asking for anything. We weren't asking for any money. We were just sharing. And so this great thing starts to happen, right? And then all of a sudden, I get a call, and you see on the very kind of bottom right of the screen, that's Worcester College in Ohio. They said, hey, we love this idea. We've had a similar situation with our team. Can we borrow this? And I said, borrow it, take it. Take it, change the hashtag, change the pictures, make it your own. And they did so. And so now you flash forward, and we're, 5 or 6 years later, and there's probably been 30 teams that I can think of that have done just that, where they've taken this and they've made it their own, and then they share it from theirs. And I'm offering to anybody that's listening, if you're interested in that, contact me, because I want to help you get this out. Because again, it's a really powerful way to turn this message outside to get it out, but also to make your program about something more than what you thought it was about to begin with. All the way up until the end. This picture here, I put up here, and it's certainly not about me, but our program accomplished things that nobody ever before thought was possible. So that's a picture. I think we won a game, and I became the winningest coach in program history. And that has nothing to do with me. It's all the guys there and all the players before and coaches and everybody else that's involved. But it's a demonstration, again, that our success on the field was directly related to us embracing ideas that were bigger than that off the field and really learning how to celebrate the people that we had in the room. And that's when we really became something else. So right up until the end, right up until the time that the program shut down, we would just keep sharing. Any piece of good news. Somebody signs in the MLS, we would share it. Somebody scores a goal as a pro overseas, we would share it. We spoke at a school. Again, our players up in front of kids as heroes in their eyes. And we would just keep sharing it over and over and over again. I love the picture that's in the middle, the class of 2016. There's 11 guys on that photo. 11 players, all of them are minorities. 10 of the 11 are first-generation college students and their family. I think 7 of them were English as a second language. Every one of them graduated. Every single one of them graduated. That blows every single statistic about minorities in higher education right out of the water. And we were doing that every single year. Not maybe 11, but that kind of thing was happening in our program every single year. So then, when I share with teams, we'll go through messaging about like, so what, now what? So a great story, but what does it mean? And I'll go through a lot of things, and there's a lot more stories to share, and I'll just do one of them here with you. But a lot of coaches have called me over the years, and then really recently in the last few weeks and months, and said, you worked with such a diverse group. How did you do it? How do we get diversity and inclusion in our team or in our group or in our organization, in our athletic department, at our school? How do we do it? And the reality is this, and this is just what I've learned, is that you just can't throw people together and expect it to work out. There's a lot of work that has to be done. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of trust that has to go into it. And so I wrote this for a blog that I do a while back. Inclusion cannot exist without diversity. Diversity cannot exist without trust. Trust cannot exist without authenticity. Mm-hmm. Authenticity cannot exist without vulnerability. Vulnerability cannot exist without self-acceptance. Self-acceptance cannot exist without self-love. Self-love cannot exist without love. Bottom line, there's a lot of work that has to be done before we get to the diversity and inclusion part of it. Mm-hmm. It's possible, but there's a lot of trust and a lot of sharing and a lot of vulnerability and authenticity that has to go on first. And again, that's one of the great lessons of what we're doing here. We all have a story to share. We all have work to do, and we are more more together than we are alone. And that's just kind of the message of what our team became about. And I always think our job in coaching is to give them roots and to give them wings. I want to give them a place that they can always call home, a place they can count on, but also give them the confidence to go out and accomplish great things in the world. And that's what we were able to do in our program. And again, it was all related to our ability to tie into things that were bigger than us, bigger than soccer.
Yeah.
Last slide here for me, Vince, and I'll take any questions that you have. But I always end with this, is that if you imagine this circle here, I love the visual. It's a great looking stadium, but I like the picture of it. And you imagine your team on the inside of that circle. And inside that circle is a place where everybody feels like they belong. Everybody feels heard and valued and celebrated. That's what we're looking for. That's kind of what hope looks like to me. Yeah. And when you go to the edges of the circle and to invite more people in, and you don't go there because you're trying to save them, you're going there to share with them. Because I'll tell you this, people ask me all the time, they'll say things like, oh, how wonderful that you've influenced all these diverse populations and these kids over the years. Say, whoa, you don't understand. They've taught me way more than I've taught them. Mm-hmm. They've done for me way more than I've done for them. And so we go there to not save people, but to share with them. And every time we add somebody into the circle, the power of the circle grows, and not just by one, but exponentially. That's what hope looks like to me. This last grid I'll just leave up, and we can talk, Vince, however, if you want. Yeah. But if people want to get in touch with me, they can certainly take a screenshot of that, and I'm available in any way.
No, thank you. I'm going to leave it up so that way people can, write down all the information, everything. First off, thank you.
You're welcome.
Every coach or every person that's a leader of youth or players should listen to this. In my opinion, it's a must listen to. And so I'll let Fritz maybe ask a question, but real quick, we did have a question from Rob, who used to coach at St. Joe Rensselaer.
Yeah. I know Rob. Yeah.
Yep. So he's been on, and he says, by the way, hello and great presentation. And we even have an 11-year-old young man that comes on almost every day. His name's Alex, and he and his dad come on, and so he's on as well. So going back to the Florida opponent, anything happened to the coach, or did you hear anything that happened to the coach?
Yeah. I don't really know, to be honest with you. Yeah, I didn't. Again, it happened, and we were so caught in the moment. We just kind of made it about us in that time. And, the whole thing with One Valpo, it became something much bigger than I even thought that it was going to be, because for me, it was just my team. I was just coaching my team. And I was actually surprised when it started to spread outside of the team. And if you think about what a legacy, right now, we're still talking about it today.
Yeah.
I talked to a high school principal in Georgia yesterday. I talked to a football coach in Ohio from a Division III college, the Youth Basketball Association from another state, Youth Soccer Association from Hawaii. They're all adopting this in some way or another now. And so, again, what a great legacy that you're leaving behind. I tell everybody the greatest number of wins, whatever, the best win I ever had was this one.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
And it go, Fritz and I, we go back and forth and talk about educational things. And Fritz always tells me and reminds me that, players buy in what they help create. Right. And you did that here. But Fritz, I'll let you kind of expand on that, or any other questions you might have for your former coach.
Right? Yeah. I mean, this is just so fantastic. I heard a version of this earlier in the spring and felt compelled to share it with a course I'm teaching at Butler called The Theory and Practice of Coaching, which is more generalist and an introduction for undergrads who want to be coaches across sports. And one of the things, to give props to Coach Avery here, that really jumped out to me was in education in general, not just coach education, but education in general. There's a lot of like thou shalt kind of given to people who want to be educators, coaches. You should do this. You should do that. And if you figure out these things, then these great outcomes will happen. But the how, the in between is the how, the nuance and the contextual stuff that's so hard for us to figure out when we're in the trenches. So what I really appreciate this is there's a lot about how you did it, Coach. And you're talking about it, the whole diversity stuff is really kind of popular, but people are missing it. They're missing the how. And so what you're offering that I love so much, what's so critical, is that you're giving guidance for how to like embed this on a daily basis. It's a way of being, and it's not bringing in a speaker or two. I've heard a lot of athletes at the college level talk about, well, there's an incident where this or this happened, and okay, and so we're trying to figure out the whole diversity thing. All right, and so what's being done about it? Well, we had a speaker come. Yeah. It's like, yeah, but what does this look like, sound like every day?
Yeah.
Right? And that's, I feel like, where some coaches are getting lost, and some of it's not necessarily their fault. There's a lack of in general of education and training, especially at the highest levels, to help people figure it out. Yeah. So I'm just really inspired by the fact that you've kind of got this how to, you can show people what it looks like, sounds like, and there's depth to that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, what's interesting to me when I listen to you talk, Fritz, first of all, when I coached you when you were a kid, you could barely speak. And so to hear you talk is pretty amazing, actually. And the whole doctor thing blows me away.
I know.
But people have asked me a lot. They'll say things like, what happens when somebody in the room doesn't buy in? Right? That's a very common, maybe they don't see things the same way. And what I always share with people is, as we became more bought into this idea of One Valpo over years, I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in a week, in a month. It took time for us to really buy into it. We lost some kids along the way. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
It became not for them. And we had to be strong enough to say, no. This is what we believe in. This is what we're going to be. And we just had to have a consistency of message over and over and over again. And again, the amazing part of it at the end is that, we had kids that were committing to us. And I would say, why'd you choose us? You could have gone to X, Y, and Z. Why here? And they said, oh, I'm interested in this. I wanted to be part of this. And to me, that, that just lets you know that you're on the right track at least. And so what I tell people all the time, it doesn't really matter what your team is going to be about. For us, it was One Valpo. For another team, it could be something different. Mm-hmm. But you have to be about something, and I guess that's really the bottom line, is you've got to be about something. And if we make what we're about only the winning part of it, and we talked about a little of this off air before we started, we're missing the boat. We're missing it. It's got to be about something bigger than that. I say this, and people think I'm joking, and I'm not being hyperbolic. In this day and age right now, soccer can help heal the world right now. We're uniquely positioned to help heal because of the global impact and reach of our sport, and the way that we integrate people of, all kinds of places and races, and you know what I mean? We can be a leader in healing. And I think right now, more than ever, we need intentional coaches, intentional leaders that are really trying to put messaging like this in the forefront.
Absolutely. No. And Coach, you've given us a lot of your time and appreciate it. And, I'm going to have to send you like a candy bar or something like that. But, we, in our blended courses, we have the people that are taking the blended courses, since we've launched them, one of the webinars they must listen to is diversity and inclusion. I'd love for you to come on and present.
Yeah, anytime.
Coaches, because this is a message that every coach needs to hear.
Yeah, anytime. Again, we all do what we can in this time right now, and so this is something that I can do. That I'm here.
No, thank you so much, and all the best to you and your family, and
thank you.
And Fort Wayne, and we know that hopefully Fort Wayne grows into the we want it to be, right? And who knows, they'll have a professional team sometime, and
that's the goal.
Yeah. And again, I'm so blessed to know you, and to have, you taught me a lot too throughout the years. So I just want to say thank you.
That goes both ways, and it's, I was telling somebody this morning, I was coming on to this particular meeting today, and I remember maybe 30 years ago going to my first coaches convention and joining the organization. You know what I mean? Like, and you go, and those were the days when you would get armloads of gear at the exhibit hall, and you just run in to get as much T-shirts as you could. Yeah. And now we're the old guys at the convention.
Yeah. So, except for Fritz.
Yeah, exactly.
Fritz. Yeah.
No, so it's great to be a part. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And Fritz, thank you so much for coming on and helping me. And just, I thought it'd be nice for you to see your old coach. And you guys,
it's worth it right there.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, everybody. And tomorrow we have TGIF, where we'll try to talk about soccer, but it's more just fun and relaxation before you hit the weekend. But and just a heads up, the week of the 24th, we are moving the time to 1 o'clock in Eastern time. So that's not next week, but the week after. So for everybody that cares and watches and listens to us loyally. So thank you all so much. Thanks, Coach. And thanks, Coach Fritz. And we'll good luck and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.